In this video, we will learn about the Directive Principles of State Policy, that is the DPSP. They are a set of guidelines enshrined in Part 4 of the Indian Constitution, and they are enshrined in Articles 36 to 51. They serve as fundamental principles for governance, directing the state, including the legislature and the executive, to frame laws and policies aimed at establishing a just, equitable, and welfare society. So this is the introduction of the directive principles of state policy. They are enshrined in the Indian Constitution in Part 4 in Articles 36 from Articles 36 to 51. So now let's look at them. Some of the key features are here. Some of the key features of directive principles of state policy. One of the most important feature is non-justiciable. They are non-justiciable in nature. Unlike fundamental rights which are given in Part 3 of the Indian Constitution, directive principles of state policy cannot be enforced in a court of law. Citizens cannot sue the government for failing to implement them. So Article 37 explicitly states this. So this is given in the Article 37 that the directive principles of state policy are non-justiciable in nature. Then we will move on to the second feature, that is fundamental in governance. The state is duty bound to apply these principles when making laws. So they are fundamental in governance. The third key feature is aim. Aim of the directive principles of state policy is to establish social, economic, and political democracy, which is the ultimate goal of the Indian Constitution also. And the ultimate goal of the Indian Constitution is to establish the welfare state. As well as to establish the welfare state, the Indian Constitution strives to establish social, economic, and political democracy. Inspiration: it has been borrowed from the Irish Constitution, Directive Principles of Social Policy. So the directive principles of state policy in the Indian Constitution have been borrowed from the Irish Constitution's Directive Principles of Social Policy. They have not exactly been copied, they have been modified according to the Indian conditions. So this is the inspiration. Only inspiration has been taken from the Irish Constitution. Now, major categories and examples. So you can learn the directive principles of state policy in a sequential manner from Articles 36 to 51 also. But if you want to prepare for the exams, then you have to learn about them. There are some socialistic principles given in them. There are some Gandhian principles and then liberal intellectual principles. So these principles are given in some particular articles. So we will look at them by the different articles in which they are given. So first we will look at the socialistic principles, which promote social and economic justice. So it is given in the first article, in which it is the socialistic principles come forward are in Article 38. So it promotes the welfare of the people, minimizes inequalities of income, status, facilities, and opportunities. Then Article 39, it secures adequate livelihood for all citizens, equitable distribution of community resources, prevention of concentration of wealth to the common detriment, equal pay for equal work for men and women, protecting of workers' health and strength, and protection of children against exploitation. So in Article 39, these all points are secured. There are 6 points. You have to remember all of these. Then comes under the socialistic principles is Article 41, right to work, education, and public assistance in cases of unemployment, old age, sickness, etc. Article 42, just and human conditions of work, maternity relief. Article 43, living wage, decent standard of life, social and cultural opportunities for workers. Article 43A, participation of workers in management of industries. And Article 47, raise nutrition levels and standard of living, improve public health. So all these articles come under the socialistic principles. They promote the socialistic principles of directive principles of state policy for promoting social and economic justice. That is Article 38, Article 39, Article 41, 42, 43, 43A, and 47. Now we will move on to the Gandhian principles. It reflects Gandhi's visions, and the articles which come under the Gandhian principles are Article 40. It organizes village panchayats, that is self-government in villages, and it promotes decentralization of power. Article 43, it promotes cottage industries, rural economy. Then Article 43B, promote voluntary formation, autonomous functioning, democratic control, and professional management of cooperative societies. Then Article 46 also comes under Gandhian principles. It promotes education and economic interests of SCs, STs, and other weaker sections. Article 47 prohibits consumption of intoxicating drinks and drugs. except for medicinal purposes, and Article 48, it prohibits cow slaughter. So all these are the Gandhian principles. Then comes the liberal intellectual principles, which are the third category. So it is given in the Article 44, Uniform Civil Code for citizens throughout India. Article 45, Early Childhood Care and Education for children below 6 years. Originally, free and compulsory education up to 14 years of age was there in Directive Principles of State Policy, but during the 86th Amendment Act, it was shifted to fundamental rights under Article 21. So now in Article 45, early childhood care and education for children below 6 years is only there. Then Article 48, it organizes agriculture and animal husbandry on modern scientific lines. Article 48A, protect and improve the environment, safeguard forests and wildlife. Article 49, protect monuments, places and objects of national importance. Article 50, separate judiciary from executive. Article 51, promote international peace and security, respect international law, settle disputes by arbitration. So all these were the liberal intellectual principles. Now we will learn about the significance of the directive principles of state policy, and this can be asked in the mains exam. So moral compass, first significance is moral compass, it provides a philosophical foundation and national objective for governance. Then policy guidelines, it guides the legislature in enacting laws, example land reforms, Manrega, RT Act, environmental protection laws, minimum wages acts, etc. It constitutional goals, defines the socio-economic aims of the Indian state envisioned by the framers. Then judicial interpretation, courts use DPSP to interpret fundamental rights and statutes, striving for harmony between part 3 and 4. Parts 3 and 4, example, reasonable restrictions on fundamental rights for implementing DPSPs. And measuring stick, it also acts as a measuring stick. It is used to evaluate government performance and legislative intent. Some of the criticism and challenges, they are not, first of all, they are non-justiciable in nature. So the biggest criticism is this only: lack of enforceability leads to slow or inadequate implementation. Conflict with fundamental rights, historically there was a tension, example, property rights versus land reforms. Courts now emphasize harmonious construction. Then vagueness, some principles are broad and lack specific directives. Financial burden, implementation of DPSPs often requires significant financial resources and political will. Implementation depends heavily on the priorities of the government in power. So these are some of the criticism and challenges that DPSPs face. You can remember 4 or 5 points for the exam, it will be enough. Then evolution and relationship with fundamental rights. Firstly, there was an initial conflict. Early cases, example, Champakam Dorai Rajan, held fundamental rights superior to DPSP. Then in constitutional amendments, the 25th Amendment Act 1971 introduced Article 31C, giving precedence to laws implementing Article 39B and C over fundamental rights under Article 14 and 19. Then the 42nd Amendment Act 1976 extended this precedence to all DPSPs. So, but after this, in the Minerva Mills verdict 1980, it was a landmark Supreme Court judgment, struck down the 42nd Amendment Act 1976 extension. It established the doctrine of harmonious construction. The Constitution, it told that the Constitution is founded on the bedrock of the balance between parts 3 fundamental rights and part 4 DPSP, and neither has absolute primacy. They are complementary. In a sense, now we will move on to the conclusion. In a sense, the DPSP represents the Indian Constitution commitment to building not just a politically free society, but one characterized by social and economic justice. While not legally enforceable, they remain a powerful moral and political force shaping India's legislative and policy landscapes towards a more equitable future. So this is all about the directive principles of state policy. I have provided you with all the important notes. You can go through it again and again and remember all the points. So hope you found this video informational. I will see you in the next video.